I was in the Guard, not as its commander, but I was in the Guard in 1974 when the first female came in the Guard. And you want to see what a hullabaloo that caused. And then, of course, we migrated to now. I appointed the first colonel, first commander of a unit in the military in Rhode Island. Now we have soldiers, female soldiers, going to war in combat positions, coming home, unfortunately, in caskets. And we take it for granted so many times. The kind of effort that we have to have is clearly in the hands of Beth Grady. She's with the United States Treasury, the Department of Veterans Affairs. Her focus is clearly on our veterans, but I think she'll share with you her major concerns and what her challenges will be over the next several years. So with that, please put your hands together and welcome to this podium, Beth Grady.
I can tell you I've never been introduced by a general, so this is the highlight of my day. I am the Woman Veteran Program Manager, and before I talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges, I just want to say we stand on the shoulders of giants. During the American Revolution, women served on the battlefield as nurses, water bearers, cooks, and laundresses. The War of 1812, Mary Marshall and Mary Allen nursed aboard Commodore Stephen Decatur ship, United States. During the Civil War, women provide casualty care and nursing to Union and Confederate troops at field hospitals and on the Union hospital ship Red Rover. During 1901, the Army Nurse Corps is established. During 1908, the Navy Nurse Corps is established, Army and Navy, within 10 years. World War I, there were 21,480 Army nurses that served in military hospitals. During World War II, more than 60,000 Army nurses served stateside and overseas. And 67 Army nurses are captured by the Japanese in the Philippines in 1942 and are held as POWs for over 2.5 years, and some of you may remember that. In 1949, the Air Force Nurse Corps is established. We were a little late. We were very late, actually. We're the younger sister service. The first African-American woman enlisted in the Marine Corps. During the Korean War, service women who had joined the reserves following World War II are involuntarily recalled to active duty during the war. More than 500 Army nurses serve in the combat zone, and many more are assigned to large hospitals in Japan. One Army nurse dies in a plane crash en route to Korea on July 27, 1950, shortly after hostilities begin. 11 Navy nurses die en route to Korea when their plane crashes in the Marshall Islands. Air Force nurses serve stateside. In 1953, the first woman physician is commissioned as a medical officer in the regular Army. In 1955, men are accepted to the Army and Air Force Nurse Corps and the Army Medical Specialist Corps. In 1965, men are accepted into the Navy Nurse Corps. During the Vietnam War, over 7,000 American military women serve in Southeast Asia. The majority of them are nurses. In 1971, the first Air Force woman is promoted to Brigadier General. In 1973, the end of draft and the establishment of the all-volunteer force opens the door for expanding service women's roles and numbers. At that time, the first Navy woman earned her military pilot wings. the Navy accepts its first woman chaplain, and the first woman in the history of the armed forces is promoted to Major General. In 1974, an Army woman becomes the first woman military helicopter pilot. In 1976, women are admitted to service academies. In 1978, the Coast Guard opens all assignments to women. In 1979, an Army Nurse Corps officer becomes the first African American woman Brigadier General in the history of the armed forces. In 1982, the Air Force selects the first woman aviator for test pilot school. In 1988, NASA selects its first Native woman as an astronaut. In the Persian Gulf War, some 40,000 American military women are deployed during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. 2 Army women are taken prisoner by the Iraqis. 1991, the Navy assigns the first woman to command a naval station and an aviation squadron. In 1992, the first active duty woman Coast Guard officer is promoted to captain, and that language would be an 06, similar to in the Air Force, that's a colonel. In 1996, the first woman in the history of the armed forces is promoted to 3-star rank. 1997, the Army promotes its first woman to lieutenant general. In the year 2000, the Air Force promotes the first woman pilot to brigadier general. And because I wanted to talk a little bit about history in a lot of the firsts, we have our own Marine Lance Corporal Holly Charette, who's the first female Marine who was killed in Iraq. And Johnston has the honor of having the Holly Charette Transition House, which is a wonderful organization that helps those women who may be at risk for losing their home. And it's a great opportunity to be in that house and to feel the warmth and the support of helping each other. And Marine Corps Captain Bernice Armour, who I met a couple months ago, is the first black female fighter pilot in the Marines. We stand on the shoulder of giants, and the reason why I think this is so important is because we should never forget who came before us and who we need to set the example for. So there are 1.8 million women veterans, okay, which is really awesome, living. Today, 15% of our active duty force, women. And so when we talk about women in the service and women veterans, sometimes we forget that we stand on the shoulders of giants all the way back from the Revolutionary War. So I wanted to just read something that I actually borrowed from the Manchester VA. I have to give credit where credit's due. So for Veterans Day, what is the point? On this Veterans Day, please remember, it is the veteran, not the preacher, who has given you freedom of religion. It is the veteran, not the reporter, who has given you freedom of the press. It is the veteran, not the poet, who has given you freedom of speech. It is the veteran, not the liberal protesters, who has given you the freedom to assemble. It is the veteran, not the lawyer, who has given you the right to a fair trial. It is the veteran, not the politician, who has given you the right to vote. It is the veteran who salutes the flag, who serves under the flag. Let us all honor them today, and that's the point. And I want to say, for those women and men, veterans, thank you for serving, and welcome home.